Rockstars, I'm Erik Voss, and if Sadie Sink is truly playing the Marvel mutant Jean Grey in Spider-Man Brand New Day, How? While Sadie Sink would make a killer Jean Grey and has the star power to carry Marvel Studios' upcoming mutant saga in X-Men, and pairing her with Peter Parker first on screen seems like a smart move, we also cannot ignore the various things that are weird about this. For example, how would a mutant like Jean Grey exist in the 616 MCU already, when so far the only other mutants we know about are homegrown MCU mutants like Kamala Khan and Namor, and there have been no older generation mutants like Professor X or Magneto anywhere in the history of this universe. Also, does this mean other key members of the starting X-Men lineup are also going to be somewhere in the 616 universe, like Scott Summers or Bobby Drake? And if they are, will Marvel Studios spend as much time establishing their backstories in the 616 universe as they will for Jean in Brand New Day? And why would they introduce Jean Grey right before the MCU's multiversal collision events and Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars? Like, is Sadie Sink's Jean Grey gonna go from the street level Brand New Day story to fighting in Battle World to then just kind of joining the other young X-Men in the mutant saga era, trying to act impressed by the lower scale threats that she's gonna face as she mentally compares them to the far crazier shit she already went through in just her second MCU outing? Look, again, I'm all for Sadie Sink playing Jean Grey in Brand New Day, and making that Spider-Man story a kind of preview for the mutant saga really could be great, but I am just eager to know how Marvel Studios is going to logically justify Jean Grey's sudden appearance in this world, and whether those answers are gonna come in this Spider-Man movie, in Doomsday or Secret Wars, in the future X-Men movie, or never. It's probably gonna be never, right? Like, trying to come up with answers to questions like this is the grunt work that Marvel Studios just kind of leaves to me. I just don't think enough of us have fully explored the logic and the implications of Jean Grey showing up right now. So that's what I'm gonna try to do in this video. And I think there are a few ways that it could work, and each of those ways are pretty cool in their own right. By the way, our merch store, nerdriot.shop, has a bunch of great X-Men inspired designs like this Open Your Eyes shirt. And if you do us a solid and take a selfie wearing one of these while watching a new Rockstars video, or just while you're out in the world or something, post it, tag us in it, and I will shout you out in one of our videos. Okay, while no official source has of yet confirmed that Sadie Sink is playing Jean Grey, many of the fandom are now just kind of assuming this rumor is true, after in the past week, Scooper Cryptic 4K Qual declared it on February 26, 2026. But we should also note that it was a claim made by Scooper Jeff Snyder as far back as December 2024. In the version of the Brand New Day trailer that leaked in December 2025, Sadie Sink seemed to be a runaway with enhanced abilities who could both telekinetically release powerful shockwaves from her hands and telepathically link with Peter Parker's mind. And there's just not too many redheads with that kind of specific power set in the Marvel Universe, so all signs are pointing to Jean Grey. The general rumor mill has speculated that this Jean Grey will be on the run from the DODC, the Department of Damage Control agency that has been prosecuting other enhanced individuals and mutants in the MCU, in the Ms. Marvel series, in Spider-Man No Way Home, in She-Hulk, and in Wonder Man. And Tramell Tillman's character in Brand New Day is going to be a government authority chasing her down. But the only official news as of now is that Sadie Sink will be in Spider-Man Brand New Day in 2026 and also in Avengers Secret Wars in 2027. No confirmation for Doomsday in between, just the next one after that, Secret Wars. But part of the reason for the guesswork here is that Sadie Sink has been a pro at saying nothing when interviewers have tried to bait her with giving some clue for Spider-Man Brand New Day. But last summer at the Tony Awards, Josh Horowitz posed the question by denying the Jean Grey part of the rumor and bringing up the Gwen Stacy rumor.
It's not Jean Grey, I hear. Now I'm hearing Gwen Stacy. I was so close. What do you say to my theory?
I still say nothing. We're at the Tony Awards. Let's enjoy it. Yes.
Yeah, Sadie's extra skepticism as Josh moved away from Jean Grey, I guess you could say might be the actress finding some humor in the fact that Josh might have had it right the first time there. But for the purposes of this video, we are going to assume that Sadie Sink is playing Jean Grey, and really just talk about the overall dilemma Marvel Studios would face if it would want to introduce a key X-Men character right now in the 616 universe before everything gets blown up in Doomsday. Here's the logic issue I am having trouble wrapping my head around. For this Jean Grey to be the Jean Grey in the eyes of X-Men fans, she really does need to go through the kind of classic journey of being the young mutant with psionic powers and have some mysterious link to the cosmic Phoenix Force, a young mutant who then gets recruited by Professor Charles Xavier to join his mutant academy to help focus and train her powers. Now, Jean's adult life does get further complicated from there as the Phoenix takes over in the Dark Phoenix saga, and then there's the whole madness with Mr. Sinister making a clone of Jean Jean named Madeline Pryor, whom Scott Summers hooks up with to make Nathan Summers Cable, but all of that really comes later. It's just a little weird then if in the MCU, Jean Grey's backstory is gonna be, well, I hung out with Spider-Man for a bit in a street-level story, and then I joined dozens of multiversal heroes and villains in Battle World, fighting God Emperor Doom and his Wizard Sheriff and his Doombots and the whole Thor Corps. And then, after some magical reality warp reboot, I just started to go to this school for gifted youngsters in Westchester and got to know Scott and Aurora and Logan and the rest as we deal with like interpersonal drama and fight Sentinels. Yeah, can't you kind of see how that's a really, the reason the X-Men characters are popular isn't just their names and power sets, it's their relationships with each other and their unique backstories. You may be familiar with the dilemma I've referred to as the Magneto problem. In order to introduce Magneto into the 616 universe right now would make things kind of difficult to plug him into that 20th century history with World War II. Keeping Magneto the age he would really need to be an active threat in the year of the MCU, which by the way is getting close to 2030, that would force him to be close to 100 years old if he's still going to be a Holocaust survivor, a backstory that most fans consider to be a canon event. So therefore Magneto would need to come from a different universe at this point for the timeline to match up. And if he's from a different universe, would he have the same connection to the history of the 616 universe and the relationships with other X-Men that with Jean Grey, Marvel Studios would now be moving ahead with establishing as homegrown mutants in the MCU? Really, this is going to be an issue for all of the key X-Men characters like Jean Grey if Marvel Studios starts introducing some of them now in the MCU. If Jean is going to be joining the party before the events of Doomsday and Secret Wars, she's just going to be part of a different origin story than the other X-Men characters will be, the relationships with whom will be critical for Jean's destiny and for the overall future success of this franchise. So for an answer to how mutants like Jean Grey could only start to emerge right now, there are a few obvious ways Marvel could start to answer this question. One could be mutants always existed in the background and periphery of the MCU, and it's only now that evolution just finally kicked in for that 0.5% of the population. Now, I've mentioned that number 0.5% before in videos, and I really sourced it from this very well researched and reasoned Quora post that looked at the number of mutants who died in the Genosha event in Grant Morrison's run, compared that with the world population at the time, as well as the M-Day event at the end of House of M, and deduced that if the mutant population was left undisturbed, they would make up about 0.5% of the world's population. A number that seems to make sense because if it were any more than that, you'd have way too many mutants going around completely causing chaos around society. 0.5% is contained enough where the government could feel like, I feel like we could send some Sentinels to control that population. Another explanation for the how could be 0.5% of the population could have a dormant X gene that was only recently activated by cosmic radiation from Infinity Stones and other similar energy current-based catalysts like the bangle for Kamala Khan or the heart-shaped herb that was consumed by Namor's mother while she was delivering him. A third explanation could be, rather than cosmic radiation, X genes could have been triggered by the emergence of Tiamat in Eternals. Since all life on Earth originated from the Celestials who planted Tiamat in our core, our full genetic codex comes from them, including any mutations that are part of that codex. I mean, Marvel Studios must have some X-Men plan in mind when they established that Tiamat is currently the birthplace of adamantium in the 616 universe. Or a fourth explanation could be maybe the incoming incursion is causing physical genetic anomalies in 0.5% of the population of the 616 universe, and that's how we get mutants. But if they're gonna say a Doomsday incursion is responsible for Jean Grey's powers activating, it would be kind of hard to say that Spider-Man Brand New Day is still a street-level story. I'm currently in the most frustrating part of my yearly routine, putting off seeing a doctor because I have to find a new doctor. It feels like my insurance company is constantly shifting who they contract with, so I'm left having to navigate how to find a new physician on my own. I'm not good at that. Nobody is good at that. If you're putting off getting an actual appointment because you're overwhelmed by the effort needed to find a doctor, then I am telling you from personal experience that today's sponsor, ZocDoc, can help you find the right doctor for you today. ZocDoc is a free website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment. From mental health to dentistry, eye care, skin care, and everything in between. And ZocDoc isn't just for one type of doctor. They have more than 100,000 providers across nearly every specialty. It's the only one-stop shop shop for all your healthcare needs, plus it's completely free. My favorite part is that you can see the doctor's actual appointment openings, choose the time that works for you, and click to instantly book a visit without having to get on the phone. My back hurt, I didn't know why, and I was able to find a physical therapist to help me out instantly. Plus, ZocDoc helps you get appointments fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking, and you can even score same-day appointments. No need to call doctor's offices and wait on hold either. ZocDoc lets you do everything online. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments. Go to ZocDoc.com/newrockstars or click the link in the description to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. I'm honestly not that concerned with the how question of where mutant powers come from in the MCU. I'm really okay with that just being chalked up to evolution, with characters in this universe just having competing theories that maybe some of these other things I mentioned could have helped trigger that. The how question that we do really need answered is how Jean Grey gets introduced before Doomsday and Secret Wars and still has a satisfying narrative arc with the other X-Men who will only come into the picture after this huge scale war. And specifically, how is she gonna have elder generation mutants like Charles Xavier and Magneto if, due to that Magneto problem I mentioned, a character we accept as a proper never again Magneto would have to come from another universe, or due to some kind of timeline crunching. 3 explanations here. Explanation 1, post-Secret Wars universe warp and memory wipe. This is kind of the most convenient theory that I've proposed for how Secret Wars could end. Maybe after defeating Doom, Franklin Richards and others like Doctor Strange could remake reality into a new 616 universe that includes some characters from the Infinity Saga and some characters from new universes that we meet in Battle World, with Doctor Strange doing a broad memory reset, and that after Secret Wars we are just left with a semi-rebooted MCU with Avengers and X-Men and Fantastic Four and Spider-Man and Black Panther all together, and something that looks like a live-action version of the Insomniac Spider-Man games. Remember that New York, how it has an Oscorp Tower and an Avengers Tower and the Baxter Building and the Fisk Tower and the Sanctum Sanctorum and the Wakandan Embassy and Josie's Bar? If we get something like that, we're not going to question it, because this is what a primary Marvel universe should look and feel like. And if this is the direction Marvel Studios goes, it really doesn't matter what Jean Grey does in Spider-Man Brand New Day, because they could just keep whatever parts of her character that fans liked in Brand New Day and in Secret Wars, wipe her memory, and then plunk Jean into a new class of incoming mutants to the X-Mansion alongside others like Bobby Drake and maybe also Kamala Khan. Explanation 2, X-Men did exist in the 616 history, but society was brainwashed. You may remember the Wanda erased the X-Men theory I presented in the past. The idea being that Kevin Feige always intended his MCU that began in 2008 with Iron Man to be a shared universe with the Fox X-Men from the years that led up to that, and that the MCU as we've known it could be a post House of M or post No More Mutants reality warp by Wanda Maximoff or someone else to make all of this society forget that X-Men did exist in this history. Maybe we're gonna learn in Doomsday that the 616 universe did in reality have mutants and X-Men as part of its history at one point, but either Professor X using Cerebro or the Ancient One using the Runes of Kufkal memory wipe spell that Doctor Strange used in Spider-Man No Way Home, or maybe even the TVA using their reset charges retconned the X-Men out of the collective memory of the 616 universe, and maybe now due to the incursion with the X-Men universe that we're seeing in Doomsday, that retcon is glitching, and Omega level mutant Jean Grey with her advanced psionic powers is just one of the first homegrown MCU X-Men that we're gonna meet. Explanation 3, Jean Grey's unique Phoenix Force is what draws her into Secret Wars. So after exploring all of the options, I think the reason Marvel Studios is starting with Jean Grey and not, say, a friend to Peter Parker like Bobby Drake is that it's gonna be Jean Grey's Phoenix Force that matters to the Secret Wars event. And it's the way Marvel Studios is gonna explore the cosmic origins of the Phoenix Force and quickly burn that out without having to make the Dark Phoenix saga Sadie Sink Jean Grey's whole thing in the Mutant Saga. Kevin Feige knows full well that Fox Studios tried twice to explore the Phoenix Saga and struggled both times, with Famke Janssen's Jean in 2006's X-Men The Last Stand, and with Sophie Turner's Jean in 2019's Dark Phoenix. The Dark Phoenix saga from Chris Claremont in the early 80s, that was later explored in some of the seasons in X-Men the Animated Series in the 90s, was really one of the most important storylines that revitalized Marvel as a brand in the 80s. And I get why the little Mike Wheelerses and Will Byerses who grew up reading that storyline in the early 80s, who are now running Hollywood, tried twice to make movies out of that storyline, but it just does not work. Maybe it's just that film audiences don't really want to watch a story nowadays of a hysterical woman who's too powerful, so a bunch of guys have to literally kill her. I think screenwriters today are just gonna want to come at a story like that with a different kind of complexity. Still though, we can't ignore the Phoenix. It is a core canonical part of Jean Grey's story, so you gotta do something with the Phoenix, and I think what Marvel Studios is gonna do, let's just make Phoenix the character in Secret Wars. So here's a pitch for how it's gonna work for Jean Grey from Brand New Day to Secret Wars to X-Men. Imagine that Sadie Sink's Jean Grey is a homegrown Omega-level mutant born with the X gene in the 616 universe. Due to whatever reason, all these mutants are now appearing. She's now showing up in street-level stories like what Brand New Day is. But the Phoenix Force is a cosmic entity who knows that incursions are coming and bonds with Jean. These chaotic powers start to manifest when she's on the run in Brand New Day and meets Peter Parker. But the Phoenix's ultimate goal is to make Jean Grey strong enough to survive the coming crisis. So in Secret Wars, it's not really Jean, it's gonna be the Phoenix, fully taking over her body to become one of the fiercest champions in Battle Worlds. We're gonna see some God mode fireworks from Phoenix in that endgame level spectacle, but that Phoenix will ultimately burn out and leave Jean's body at the end of this conflict, so that after Secret Wars, when we just explore Jean as a student in X-Men, the Phoenix is just part of her past, and her memory could even have a blackout when she tries to remember that Secret Wars period. So that way there'd be no need to set up a Dark Phoenix saga, and Jean could just come in on the same page with all the other young incoming mutants in the X-Men film. So in summary, Marvel Studios could be starting off with Jean Grey in Spider-Man Brand New Day to set up a very fun, overpowered Phoenix for Battle World, and to keep Sadie Sink as the actress doing it, so that later on she can portray the more nuanced take of Jean Grey, separate from the Secret Wars event in the mutant saga that comes afterward. Now, yes, you would still need some pieces of the other explanations to explain the origins of the other X-Men that joined Jean in the mutant saga, but this third explanation at least explains how it could all work for Jean Grey and why it has to be Jean Grey first, because no other mutant has something as well known and as detached from any one Earth as the Phoenix Force, that Marvel Studios just wants to explore as something fun without all the difficult to dramatize baggage. By introducing Jean Grey this way, we are seeing Kevin Feige learn from the mistakes and apply the lessons that he learned from the other two failed versions of the Dark Phoenix saga from the Fox era. So what do you think? Am I overcomplicating some story logic that most fans are not going to need answers for? Comment down below with your thoughts, and a special thanks to one of our In Our Underground subscribers, Paulo Bianca, for supporting us at the executive producer level. You can get all of our exclusive bonus content by clicking on the link in the description below or going to inourunderground.supercast.com. This includes the one place where you can watch a recording of our January live show where we did the staged reading of the Kang Dynasty leaked screenplay. Specifically, you can find a link to that in the description below. Big thanks to Studio Tech Brian Kim, New Rockstars editors Joshua Stephen Hurd and Abby Freel, and all of the supporting editors for their work on this video. You can follow me at EA Voss, hit that subscribe button, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.